So you got a hand for us, Bob, Mr. Bob.
Yes, I do. From the infamous Stones Gambling Hall in
Oh,
Zuckerman.
from Stones. We didn't talk about how. I think that so there's this whole thing that went down a couple weeks ago. I never really talked about it, where Mike Postle was playing in some tournament, like Beau Rivage or something like that. I think he might have even done. He might have even did an interview. I'm not sure. And of course, kind of like this happened in October of 2019 or September when all this shit went down. So I mean, we're talking about 3.5 years out, right? But there's one last little bit to this. Let me go back really quickly through the timeline. You get all this shit that happened, right? Everyone pretty much thinks he's cheated after seeing the hands, and especially after the video that I put out. He then sues a bunch of us for defamation. Phil Galfon, myself, Veronica, Matt Berkey, Phil Galf, Todd Watellis, Dan Druff, some other people. And we all hit him with an anti-slap. Or excuse me, we were prepared to hit him with anti-slap. Anti-slap means that you can go in and preact and sort of preemptively get a defamation lawsuit dismissed if it's frivolous, and then the person who filed the lawsuit will have to pay your legal expenses. The thing with him, though, is that he never served us. I don't know if it was like a strategy of his or what, but Todd and Veronica served themselves. You're allowed to do that. If a lawsuit is filed and docketed, you can serve yourself. So they served ourselves. Myself, I think it was Jonathan Little, some other people were start talking to the same lawyers, and we're like, well, we're going to wait until at least we get served, which we never were. So we didn't have to deal with that. But they served themselves, which means they had counsel, they had legal fees. And Postle then just dropped the case. Well, guess what? When you file a defamation case, you don't get to just drop it and not owe the people that have filed anti-slap against you. You owe them their lawyer fees. He owes Todd and Veronica fees. I don't know, like 30,000, 20 or 30,000 each or total. Of course, he's broke. He plays in this tournament down there, and Veronica's like, wait a minute, like, what's going to happen if he wins money? Like, I think that she put some sort of lien, or she filed something with the court down there to put some sort of lien on the winnings, because he has not paid Todd and Veronica the legal fees. So that's kind of the last bit of this, which is kind of funny. I digress, but sorry about that. I don't know. Does anybody ever talk about Postle out there, Bob, at Stones anymore?
Not so much. No, I don't go to Stones that often. I actually haven't been there since before COVID.
Yeah.
Just right actually before this whole Postle thing. I think I actually played at a table once with him after the stream. Well, he didn't really play. He just kind of sat there with his chips. He was intoxicated.
He was actually at Stones? He showed his face at Stones? That's amazing.
No, this was way before the scandal.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say, my God.
After this, they always said he never played regular. I mean, listen, on the stream, right?
Stones is a nice room. I mean, I don't agree with the way that they handled the situation, but anyways.
It's still pretty nice, yeah. Yeah, but I haven't been there, so I was here this time.
One of the things about Stones that I remember, too, this is way before Texas Poker, is that like they were really the first place that I'd seen like a Match the Stack game, like an actual Match the Stack game. It was like 2-5 Match the Stack. Never even heard of that anywhere else. So I don't know if that's the game you're playing in, but I assume it's the same. They offer Match the Stack.
Yeah, they do.
Okay. So what's the size of the game?
Well, it's 1-3.
Mm-hmm.
We're full ring, and we're 1,800 effective.
So is this Match the Stack?
Yeah, this is a Match the Stack.
Yeah, so obviously it's a big game like Texas 1-3, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I have 1,800. Mm-hmm. I'm probably stuck at the time like 2,200 though.
42?
22.
Oh, 22. That's a lot for a 1-3 game. Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
I think 22 is a big number for a 1-3 game too. But anyway, so pre-flop, we have under the gun, he limps.
Okay.
And I'm in the low jack, and I have ace-7 of hearts.
Okay.
And I bet 25.
Ace of hearts, 7 of hearts, raised to 25, right?
Yeah.
Over the limp, okay.
And then the button calls.
Mm-hmm.
The small blind calls.
Mm-hmm.
And the big blind then 3 bets to 75.
Small 3-bet sizing, huh?
Yeah. I mean, for that many Callers, yeah.
Well, I mean, you made it 25. He's just making it 3x. He's got the small blind and, well, he's got the button and the small blind. I mean,
that too, right? Yeah.
yeah, I mean, if I were him, this should be like 4x plus the dead callers. Plus, he's got a. I mean, it should really be to 150, and he covers you, right? This three bet.
Yeah, he
if you're
covers
saying-
me
yeah.
and
So
the small blind.
you're super deep. So I mean, this is super small. What does the limper do?
The under the gun folds.
Okay, so limper folds. I got to tell you, I mean, here's the thing. I don't know how comfortable you are in 4-bet pots. I kind of want to 4-bet this for a couple of reasons. I think that the raise size is bullshit. I also think that you want to drive out the button and the small blind and the button especially because you want to gain yourself position in the hand. But there are a lot of guys at your level that they're not really accustomed to playing 4-bet pots, especially at a deeper stack depth, and they might not know what to do. I would say the most profitable way to play this hand probably would be a 4-bet for those reasons. Now, you can still call. The mistake here would be, I think, if you had like a hand like 6-7 suited, then I think it's a 4-bet or fold. But I think with ace-7, I think you can call. But something just seems a little bit weird to me where I want a 4-bet here. So that's my take. What did you do?
Yeah, I was thinking to ask you about that 4-bet, but I didn't 4-bet. I called.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't too concerned about the button and the small blind because they just had called me.
Well, it's not that you're concerned. It's not concerned. It's just the button's going to call, right? Because he's going to be getting a price. So so when you're in the middle here, it's a bad situation for you because you can't realize your equity as well. This is why the hand plays better heads up. This is why you'd want a 4-bet. So especially with the button in there, that leads me. I assume the button calls.
That's a good lesson. Yeah, the button and the small blind both call.
So 1, 2, 3, 4 times 75 is 300 and change.
So we're like,
right?
Yeah, we're like 305. Yeah,
okay. Yep.
After they take their rake and everything.
Yep. Okay.
The flop comes out, ace of clubs,
mm-hmm.
king of hearts, and jack of hearts.
Ace of clubs, king of hearts, jack of hearts. So you have the nut flush draw with top pair.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a pretty good draw, and I have top pair.
Yep.
And the small blind and the big blind check.
Mm-hmm.
So the pre-flop 3-better has checked now.
So small blind and the 3-better checks. That's kind of interesting. That is kind of interesting on this board. I mean, I was going to say sometimes people go buck wild in your spot on this board, and it would be a huge mistake if the 3-better came out and bet, especially large, because you're still not doing well against what a 3-betting sort of ranges. Although, again, this is a little bit strange, the small sizing. You got the button behind you. I could probably see kind of going either way with this here. You could check, or you could bet really, really small. The reasons why I wouldn't bet large, though, is because, you don't have the best kicker, right, with an ace. I mean, you've got the nut flush draw, so you always have, equity. But if you come out swinging here, I do wonder if only, and then you've got hearts covered too, so there's less heart draws. If you come out swinging here, I wonder what you can get called by that's worse. So I could actually see a little bit of checking here go on, and I could see maybe like a bet of like 75, something like that.
That is really good information to know.
Yeah, I like to get the button out of the hand, as people in the live chat say too. So I kind of lean towards a small bet here.
Yeah, well, I was a little bit tilted, you might say, at this point of the evening, and I didn't want it to check through, as you can imagine. Perhaps with the draw, I wanted a little bit more money in the pot so I could kind of build the pot a little bit.
I mean, there is a case for building a pot, and there is a case for just like allowing random offsuit queens and offsuit tens to come. But again, you've got hearts. You're setting this up like you might have made a big bet here, though, right?
Yeah, I bet 200.
I think that's a little bit large. I thought, well, at least you didn't bet like 300, but I definitely think that that's a little bit large. I assume you see why, though, right?
Yeah. No, In retrospect, after looking at the hand that I wrote out and everything, yeah, I can see the point.
So ace of clubs, king of hearts, jack of hearts again. Heroes in the low jack defending this weird sort of 3-bet sizing, and it's 4 ways. And now the big blind, who's the 3-better, checks. Hero bets 200 into 305. Okay, what does the button do?
The button folds.
Okay.
And now the small blind,
Yep.
with very little time, the small blind check raises to 500.
So the small blind raises to 500. Now, before you tell us what happens here, I just want to ask you a question, Bob. Let me ask you this question. If the small blind called the 200, okay? Let's say that instead of him raising, he called, okay? Before the big blind does anything, I don't even know what he's going to do. Would you think you were ahead? I'm not talking about like equity-wise. I'm saying, would you think that you had the best hand if the small blind called the 200?
No, probably not.
Okay. I tend to agree with you. And
there's a lot of 2 pairs. There's a lot of,
so whenever whenever you're betting for value, and you get into a situation where when somebody calls you, you don't think you have the best hand, probably you've done something wrong. In this particular case, probably the sizing, because you don't want to make a value bet and then say, oh shit, I'm beat. Then your hand is 2 in between. So there's that. That's, I think, the easiest way to kind of look at it, that why I have the issue with the 200. But okay, so small blind goes to 500. What does the big blind do?
Well, let's go back to the 200. Would you think like 125 or maybe 150 for the bet there?
I think 75.
Oh, that's small. Okay.
yeah. I think 75.
All right.
So small blind goes to 500.
He check raises to 500.
Yeah. And then what does the big blind do?
The big blind thinks for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
The pre-flop 3-bet of the big blind, and he calls the 500.
Wow. Okay. Wait a minute here. So small blind raises to 500. Big blind calls. So now you're talking about, you haven't done anything yet. It's 1,200 on the flop. The pot is like 1,500. It's 300 for you to call. What do you think the big blind has here when he 3-bet pre, and now he has cold called a check raise? We're not even going to talk about the small blind. We'll talk about that in a second. But what do you think the big blind here has at a minimum?
Yeah, at a minimum, he has like ace king or
you would think so,
something like that. Yeah.
And you would think that the small blind would be like, tend to have some sort of hand that's probably 2-pair plus 2. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like probably at worst, like king jack. At worst, he might, could have some queen 10s. So if the big blind has like a minimum of a strong hand here as ace king, and it's 1,500 and it's 300 for you to call here, what do you think the play should be here for you?
Well, yeah, this is why I submitted this hand, because I know I made a lot of mistakes in this hand. Okay. So I wanted to get your point of view on it.
So what do you think? So if we think that the big blind,
probably call the 300.
Right, because if we think the big blind has a big hand here, if we do anything else but call, there's no fold equity, right? We're not going to have fold equity coming back over the top. And then if the big blind has a set or ace king, we're just drawn to like a naked flush draw for the most part, right? We're going to be like 35%. Yeah. We also have to worry about the small blind too. So I think that this is a square call, but for some reason I do remember that maybe you did something else.
Yeah. Okay. I was thinking, maybe not thinking clearly, as I said, that, I'm pretty much, as most gamblers are, maybe 100% sure the heart is coming. So I jam over the top of both of them.
So you jam.
It's the total count ends up being 1724. So it's like 1,800 total. I mean,
so hero jams. I think we sort of talked through why I'm not a huge fan of this, right?
I know. Yeah. Yeah. And that's exactly what I had thought afterwards. And that's why I submitted it, because I thought that's a mistake.
I don't mean to confuse everyone, but there is a little thing that I will say, and it's not usually a Hold'em thing. It's more of a PLO thing, where there are some weird scenarios that can go on where you could say that I want to get the money in against 2 people now this is usually in PLO because my draw is so transparent that I will get no action if it comes later on. Not really a thing. In Hold'em, maybe once in a while somebody could make the case because like if a heart comes, somebody might just check fold. Again, not really a thing in Hold'em. I just want to point it out that in some other variants, you could make a case where if you're going to get 2-1 on your money, you could make a play like that with a draw, which is basically almost like a value bet with your equity. And again, that just solely is assuming that when the heart comes, somebody would check fold, because in PLO, they very well might. But okay, so you jam. I mean, honestly, now that you, it's funny, right? You kind of want both guys to call. I gotta be honest with you. You want both people to call. What happened?
Well, the small blind didn't even ask for a count, and he just snap went all in. And he's got both of us covered.
Okay. And the big blind?
And the big blind tanks for a long time, shows his cards. He has 2 kings, so he has a set of kings. And he starts talking about thinking he should call.
Of course he should call. What is he talking about? He's getting 2-1 with the set. He's going to be up against Queen 10, right? Maybe 2 Queen 10s, maybe a lower set. But the way that this hand went down, by the way, you could see actually if you 4-bet, you would have been sort of screwed, right? But I mean, he's getting at least 2-1 plus the overlay in the pot. He's getting like 2.5-1. The chances that he boats up here, he's going to have 7 outs to the turn, 10 outs. So it's like 8.5 outs. He's got like 35% getting like 2.5-1. It's a snap call. And again, the best case scenario for him is that both you guys have Queen 10 so that all of his board pairing outs are live. So I don't know what this guy's thinking about.
Yeah, well, that's what he said, all that stuff out loud. He said basically that. And so he eventually calls.
Okay, so he did call. Okay.
And so we've got a pot of about 5,700.
Well, that's a big pot, man. At 1-3.
At a 1-3 game, yeah, it's pretty good, huh?
Yep.
So, of course, the turn is the 10 of clubs.
Mm-hmm. And the river?
That opens up another straight if somebody has some weird queen card.
Right.
If he has pocket queens or something like that. And then the river is, of course, the 2 of hearts.
Ah, so you made it. Did you find out what the small blind had?
Yeah, the small blind, I think, thought he was chopping with me. He flipped his hand over immediately. He had Queen of Hearts, 10 of Spades.
Shocking. Shocking.
So I believe he thought we were chopping, so he opened his hand right away.
Yeah.
And he had the straight.
Yep.
Big blind did not boat up.
I mean, the king isn't a great. I mean, it's not in a great. I mean, he's behind, but it's much better that he's got 1 less out because you have the ace. But the hearts don't make any difference to him. He still needs the board to pair. But like, if you somehow had Jack, it would be much worse for him, right? Or like Ace King or Ace Jack, he's just got less outs against Queen 10. So, I mean, that's
the heart was coming, Bart.
It's interesting because what would have happened on the turn? So let's say that you call the flop, like just call the check raise on the flop.
Yeah, see, that's the other problem I was thinking too. That
I honestly now that
I have the balls to go for it, then
well, you shouldn't. So if you called the check raise on the flop, the pot would have been 1805. The turn would have been a 10. It would have put a 1-liner out there to a queen, right? Now let's say that the pot's like 1800. Let's say the guy bets like even more than 1/3 the pot. Let's say he bets like 900 on the turn. Then you just fold. It's the driest of dry flush draw. You get the nut flush draw, but there's a 1-liner out there. You're just praying for, you know what I mean? It's just, I mean, unless the guy maybe went 600 into 18, the other guy called, and then the pot was like 3, you're getting like 5-1, and you're like, oh, so, then you got to count your outs and stuff like that. But, it's an interesting one.
On that 10 of clubs, the small blind probably would have shoved at that point.
It's an interesting one. Thank you very much for the call.